You're listening to Intentionally Catholic, a podcast about living our Catholic faith with joy and intention.
Welcome to Intentionally Catholic. I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Father Ron Hutchinson.
And Father Ron, when a priest is reassigned to a new parish, it's more than just a logistical change. It's a big moment of transition, uncertainty. Pretty much, I would bet most of the time, deep emotion. For the priest, it means saying goodbye to a community that you've come to know and love. For the parish, we're affected too. It means adjusting to a new shepherd and all of that. And there's a lot of that going on right now for you and for all of us at the Basilica of St. Adalbert. We're in the middle of that as you're preparing for a new assignment. We're not going to get into all the specifics of the move, but I do want to talk about, the spiritual, the emotional challenges that come pretty much basically with challenges and transitions like this for both the priests and the people. What does it mean to follow God's will when it feels uncomfortable? How can the church community walk through these changes with grace? All of that. And I guess I want to start with, just the human side of things. How does it feel emotionally and spiritually as a priest to be reassigned?
Well, I think it's always it can be different based on the situation. Okay. There have been times in my years of being a priest, 31 now, that I was ready to go and I asked to go. So in that case, even though it's still a sad goodbye, there was a reason you felt it was time for you to move on. I mean, both times were times that I felt thus far. There were two times I can think of that I wanted to. It was just time for me to go, and though it was hard, you're excited because you're ready to do something different and you're, all that kind of thing. I would say what is different this time for me is that I really had no intention to go anywhere. I thought I was going to be staying here till I retired, which would be 7 years from now. At least I'd be asking to retire in 7 years. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get to, finish out another 7 years and, that's the way we're going to go. But the bishop had a different idea of what I needed to do and where I need to serve. And so, I got called in, and it kind of, in a sense, sort of blindsided,
You never saw it coming.
I sort of did, but I sort of didn't. I thought that we would be able to get things, kind of hashed out. And it just didn't work out that way. And so, I've been assigned to a different parish, and for me there's a lot of sadness this time. It's sadder than normal. It's like saying, it's like giving a kid up for adoption, or it just feels like I'm really having to totally let go, and it's just, I don't know. And
how long have you been at the Basilica?
I've been at the Basilica for 7 years as of end of June.
A lot of the times priests transition out. It's like a 7-8 year kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Is there a rule of thumb or not?
Well, we're assigned for 6 years. We have 6-year terms. And officially mine would have been a 6-year term was coming to an end, because I only became a pastor of the parish, an official pastor, a year after I was there as administrator for a year. So, I had 7 years. I mean, you can look at it, but we've been having a lot of guys stay for very long periods of time. So,
I remember when you first came to the Basilica, one of your first Sundays, you mentioned that you'd be here till you retired, what you had just said.
Yeah.
And I think, like if you're planning on the 6-year, and then I've got to, I'm going to be reassigned, that's one thing. When you're thinking, you're in the middle of your plans, where you're going to take things or how the parish is developing. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah. And it was really interesting. I was putting a lot of things in place this year, making decisions like from January till about April, about how things were going to function and how we were going to do it and how we were going to move forward and what things. I was kind of applying a I had done like a pastoral plan in my head, so
Yeah.
to speak, for the parish for the next 7 years. And so, yeah, it has come as it's literally been like being hit upside the head with a 2x4. I mean, it just feels like, wow, okay. So I'm having a harder time getting my head around moving, and not that it's bad to move. It's a good thing many times. And the people that I'm going to serve aren't bad people. It's not that anything, it's just, it's going to be entirely different. And I wasn't ready for that. So,
Yeah. So emotionally, it's tough. Spiritually, do you run into anything
spiritually
like
right
that?
now, the only thing I keep saying to God is just help, be with me, Lord, be with me. That's been, interestingly enough, my prayer in chapel every day thus far, is just be with me. I have been saying the serenity prayer a lot. Lord, help me to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so just trying to come to a place of like, I'm okay. I'll be okay with this eventually here. So I would say it's still not there yet.
You're on the journey to there.
I'm on a journey to there, but I'm not there yet. Packing right now is just it's just hard. Each time I put, clean out another drawer or do something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really leaving here. It's really happening. And that's kind of weird. That is giving me the chills some days. So, some days I've had to sit down and just walk away from it because I'm not in the mood,
Yeah, I don't really know what that would be like. It's I guess when you talk about that, it reminds me of people talking about packing up clothing after a death, in a family where there's that deep emotional of it's different, but there's a big goodbye here.
Yeah, there's a death of sorts. There's a death of a vision, a plan, a thought for my life. And even that I was hoping to be able to be the shepherd here till I retired. So that was my plan. And I think it really does affect people too. I mean, I get that. The hard part is that I'm having a hard time right now focusing on the parishioners' feelings about it all, because I'm dealing with my own stuff about it. So it's hard because people will say things and I'm like, I'm supposed to be the consoler in chief right now. And I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling like, hey, I'm hurting.
Right.
So when people say like, oh, we're going to miss you, it's like, oh, I wish it just like, can we not talk about it? And it's hard because I talk about it and I don't want to, I say things inadvertently that I know cause other people to be like, ooh, that wince just a little bit,
Well, okay, this is where I have a plan for what I wanted to go and ask you, but we're off of that now. No, because I'm curious, what you just said. We come up to you and say, we're going to miss you, and I know you know this, but let's practically work something out here. We're only doing that because we're so sad, and we want to acknowledge that. What would be a better thing that we could do that would actually?
I don't know that there is. I don't know if there is a better thing. If you want to know the truth,
yeah.
I'm just saying that for me right now, it's like I know I need to hear those things. I know it's good for people to say those things. It's all that's all what needs to happen.
Yep.
But it causes me to kind of like it really gets me in my stomach every time somebody says it, because I'm like, yeah, I know I'm hurting too.
It really is just like a death. When we try to console somebody who's going through that, we don't know what to say. And most of the time what we say just scrapes open a wound. And yet everybody knows the heart is there.
Yeah, I have to let people say it. I mean, a lot of people have been very kind and said, well, our loss is their gain, and that makes me feel good. There's a part of me that's like, well, I've done something here, is a part of me that feels, good, so to speak. But it's hard, it's a very difficult thing. I think people expect us to be so pulled together about it, and really for me, it's just very painful. And each thing that's a last is like very difficult,
I think one thing we can do at least is just bear that in mind, that like you said, you feel like you've got to be the consoler in chief, and yet we can cut you some slack because you're going through it too.
Yeah, I think, and I need to be honest with people and say, I'm hurting too,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't tend to say that because it's like, oh, you don't need to know my stuff, but I think people do know my stuff. I just have to be willing to say it out loud. So
I think that's actually really good. It helps us. In the midst of all of this, I guess let's talk about obedience, because that's what this boils down to some extent, if not a big extent. This is not where you want, what is the passage? It's about something different, but when Jesus talks to Peter, and I think it's in John, where it talks about you'll
when
be
you were
led where
younger,
you don't want to
used to
go.
dress yourself, and
And
when you're older, someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Yeah.
Now nobody's dressing you. We're establishing that fact clearly. You're still doing that.
Interestingly enough, I felt that when I read that passage last weekend before my homily at the 11 o'clock, I really, and it's Saturday night too as well. It just really struck me. In fact, at both of those masses, I addressed the issue of me leaving that I haven't had a chance to address at the 9 o'clock mass.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably will say something at this weekend. But, I just said to people, this wasn't my plan. This isn't what I wanted. And people heard the emotion in my voice. And I think that was good that they understand that I said, in fact, I spoke about it. I said that I knelt before Bishop Rose on the day of my ordination, and I promised obedience to him and his successors. Obedience doesn't mean I can't express my opinion about it or ask for a change in thought by the bishop. But ultimately, obedience is when the bishop looks at you and says, well, that's not going to happen, what you want. And you have to say, okay. And you have to accept it, that there is a reason beyond what I can understand or what I know, or, the things that matter to me, the salient points that I may think don't matter, but they do matter. And so, I've had to recognize that I promised obedience to the bishop and his successors. So therefore, this is a moment where I have to say, yes, sir. So it's hard. That's not the kind of thing that most human beings are used to.
No,
much.
No. I think what you're talking through, though, is something that's so, it's just very practical and really good for us to take, into our heads, into our hearts. Obedience. Jesus in the garden is saying, if this cup could be lifted, I don't want to do this. I would love another plan. Is there another plan? Because let's go that route.
Because if there isn't, but not, I'll go. Yeah.
And I do think that sometimes, maybe, probably for sure, not all the time, maybe not even most of the time, but some of the time, I feel like, obedience, when I'm questioning or challenging or frustrated about, I almost feel like I'm failing in my obedience a little bit. That's not necessarily the case. In fact, it doesn't have to be the case at all. If you follow what you're supposed to do at the end, that doesn't mean that you can't have the normal human emotions along the way. That's all fine, to ask those questions, to be disheartened, emotionally drained, frustrated about it. That's not disobedience. Obedience is all about, it's not loving the change, but it's doing it regardless.
And it's doing it with a heart that says, not my will, but yours. And I am not the one that gets to have the final say here, so you just learn to, this is probably the first time in 31 years that I've really had obedience like slap me in the face, like where I'm really had to deal with it and really had to like wrap my head around, like, this is what it means to be obedient. And it's not easy. I think we spend a lot of our time arguing with God about things, and sometimes people don't do what God asks them to do. On the other hand, doing what God asks you to do isn't always the thing that's going to make you feel good. The problem is we live in a culture that says everything's got to feel good all the time. You've got to be happy. You've got to love that decision. You've got to be right in on it. And if it doesn't, then walk away. And well, I can't walk away. This is my life. This is what I have committed my life to. And like many things, like marriage or whatever it may be, this is my moment where I have to say, okay, suck it up, buttercup, and, make something happen. So.
Yeah. How in the world do you do that? How do you prepare your heart for this change? Because, like you said, you're going to good people. Those people aren't bad. You're all of that, but yet you're still.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're heartbroken leaving here. How do you prepare yourself?
Yeah, I think the most important thing will be not to constantly talk about the basilica, because that's not going to help the people that I'm going to at all. So yeah, I'm trying to be very conscious of like, okay, this is the way I like things, not, oh, this is how we did it at the basilica, kind of idea. So, and some things I may have to just like say they're not there yet. That's not going to be the style of liturgy that they're used to. So I'm going to have to kind of, be a little more flexible or whatever it may be. So, but anyways, well, yeah, it's about saying like, okay, I have to meet these people where they're at. And I have, that's what a good shepherd does. A good shepherd takes care of the sheep. So I have to figure out what my sheep need to be taken care of, and then, respond to that.
How do you do that? I mean, I guess let me ask that a different way. Do you have like intel? Probably that lack of the wrong, it's the wrong word, but do you have something that you can plan on, or are you going in blind? You're going to have to just feel it out. I mean, you're not blind because some of it, I'm assuming.
A few things, but you never know very much, to be quite honest with you. It's all like walking in blind.
Okay.
It's like walking in, to a country that you've never been in before, and you don't know the language, and you're like, okay, let me see how I can, figure out what's going on here. Yeah, you have to really be open to, and it is very hard. It's very hard to do. You have to be open to saying, I can't just change everything all at once because this is what I was comfortable with. I think you have to kind of figure out the lay of the land, and that's not easy. It's never easy, and I think parishioners think that priests should just be experts at doing it, and we're just human beings who struggle like any human being does when you're, starting something new and all you knew was what you used to do, how you used to do it and what your experience was. The only thing it does help is I have, several parish experiences as pastor. So this isn't my first rodeo, so to speak. But at the same point in time, every experience is totally different. They're as different as the locations they're in.
No, I can't imagine it, because you're walking in as though it's the new guy. Everybody else is established.
And they're all looking at you like, okay, impress us.
Yeah.
And it's very nerve-wracking. I will tell you that. I will probably spend at least 3 to 4 months feeling just like, oh, I'm just always anxious about like this new thing, or, and really in some ways the whole first year is it's a hard thing because, it's your first Christmas there. It's your first Advent, it's your first Christmas, it's your first Lent, it's your first Easter, Holy Week, you name it. Everything is new. And there's nothing worse than everything being new. It's very hard. And people don't understand that, because once you've been there a few months, they think of you as just like, oh, he's been here. He's always been here.
That's interesting, yeah. But then each one of these is a new one for you.
Makes me go, oh, we got to do this again. I got to figure this out. Where a good example is here. Holy Week, I have done nothing but basically show up for several years now, because we have a director of worship. He handles everything. I just have to show up, and I get told where to go stand and what to do next, and it's very nice. Now I'm going to be moving to a place that I'm not going to have that at all, so I'm back to being the guy who has run the whole show, and so it's just it's like, whoa, this is going to be really an eye-opener for me.
Do you think it's easier because of your experience, your age? You've done this. Would it be easier as a younger guy?
You know what? I think it's a both and. I think younger guys maybe have a little more resilience, a little more flexibility, a little more, they're young and they expect it to be new and all that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Um, but many times they haven't had the experience of having done this new thing several times, going someplace and it's starting over again. But yeah, and at the same time, it's almost harder when you're older because we all get set in our ways and like things a certain way and like things done a certain way.
Mhm.
And, that's hard because, just because that's what I like doesn't mean that's what we should be doing. And, so yeah,
Do you let them
it's
know you like all the red M&Ms pulled out?
yeah,
The room
that's
has to be at 73 degrees
yeah,
or
exactly. Yeah, I haven't gone that far, but
all
yeah,
right.
it's funny when I was working in student affairs before I went to the seminary. That's what I did for a career, and we used to bring in these, comedians and
Sure.
bands, and we'd have to meet their requirements for their contract, and
Yeah.
they were some silly things just like that. We used to have to like do some really goofy things that you're thinking, and then, does it matter? And then they wouldn't even like look at them
I know.
or even eat
Yeah.
one. And, and you went to all this effort to get this very specific thing that they wanted to drink or they wanted to eat and they needed in the room. And sometimes I thought it was just all about ego,
Oh, it is all about ego. No, I
It's
had
just
to
like,
I had to do that once for somebody, and I forget the scenario, but it was the same thing. Just, I can't believe this. I've got to have this particular drink, this particular brand
yeah.
of water, this particular this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wish there's moments when I think, boy, it would be nice to be like that. Just everybody gets your contract and knows how to treat you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way.
No. Okay. So it's
And
not
maybe
how.
it shouldn't work that way.
No, I think you're supposed to be a servant.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
We're all supposed to be servants.
but it is, yeah, it is interesting. I think that even just, you going to a new home, it's not our home, but you want it to feel comfortable and feel like your home. And so, yeah, it's very weird doing that like every 6-7 years, if that's the case, which is why most of us like to stay longer if we can, but not always possible,
No, I hate it. I hate aspects of it a lot. I came from a Protestant background, and I do see a lot of value in it too, because I came from places. I mean, I can think of 5 churches easily in my past that, if not fell apart, really derailed for a while because it was built around the pastor. It was
Mm-hmm.
that was the guy, and when he went somewhere else or another opportunity came up, what are we going to do? How we can't replace. I do like that there's much less of that. I know it's called the cult of personality kind of a thing. There's much less of that here because, the mass is the mass, whether it's you or
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. And I do like that the church keeps moving. The basilica is going to be just fine in a way. I mean, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what you would want too,
It will be different, but it will be fine. Yeah, and I think that's what I keep reminding myself because, I mean, I know that I'm not the first pastor at the Basilica, and I'm not going to be the last pastor at the Basilica. And I know that not everything that I did was what somebody else will do. It was built around the last 7 years have been built around my style, whether I like it or not. It has to some extent, but that's not the only style. And that's what I have to remind myself of. And, because one of the things that's very hard for us is when somebody follows you and they dismantle like the whole place, like trying to erase your memory, which is what it feels like they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that really is what they're doing, but there's no doubt that when somebody makes changes to something you thought was integral to the whole like way things run there, and now they're saying it isn't, and they are changing it, it's hard not to take it personally.
Well, I can see that, and it's concerning from a parishioner's point of view. I like the way things are, and that is concerning to me too. How do you how do you go about that as a priest? Because you're trying to go, I guess it's what you said earlier. You try to move these things through slowly as you know, kind of evolve with the people.
There are non-negotiables. You know, there's certain things for liturgy for me that are non-negotiable. It's the way that we're going to be doing it. And whether they realize it or not at my new place, that is what they're in for. You know, there are certain things that are going to be the way they are. There's other things that I have to just adapt to the culture there until maybe I explain to them why that cultural thing is not a direction I'd like to go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's silly things, you know, like I've been at parishes that didn't use the bells. I've been at parishes that have used the bells. You know, I have to admit at this point in my life, I like the bells. So, yeah, if they're not using them at my new place, they're going to be, you know, and somebody's going to have to learn how to ring those babies. So, yeah. So it's like that. Now, music wise, is it going to be exactly the same as it is here at the Basilica at my new place? I highly doubt it. So I'm going to have to be probably a little kind at first and say, okay, I really dislike this hymn extremely. But until I can have built up enough gravitas that I can say, we are never singing that again, ever.
You just need to go in early and razor cut all the page out
rip
of all
those
the
pages
hymnals.
out. Yeah, so
the hymnal looks smaller now. Father Ron's been working the weekends. And...
yeah, we're working the weeknights.
Yeah, he's got just the 12 hymns he likes.
So you know, it's things like that. You know, we're all particular about our vestments. We like certain kinds of vestments. And
do you bring your vestments with you?
It's very interesting because I brought vestments here that were part of my collection from my past couple places that I had bought. And personally, I don't like them as much anymore. It's not a style that I'm as comfortable with. Have grown to like a certain style much more. And so I will admit that, I've been over the last few weeks. I've bought a couple vestments, you know, and that are going to go with me. So yeah, you know, because I need to have a certain comfort level, you know, and that may seem like a silly thing, like what you're wearing really matters that much, but it does. You know, it impacts how I feel about the worship and how I feel about my presiding, and you know, a whole host of things. So
no, it makes perfect sense. So what advice do you give to, I mean, I guess it's the new parish. It's us too, you know, somebody welcoming a new priest. What are some of the things we can do to, you know, maybe make the transition smoother?
Yeah, I think number one is give Father a chance, you know, give him as he is a chance, not like he's not Father Ron, or I don't like this, I don't like that. You know, we all do that, by the way, because, you know, I've done it over my years about other priests when they came as pastors of my home parish. But at the same point in time, I think we have to figure out, like, what is it that this priest has to offer us, you know, and try to be conscious of that. I think just being open to one another, you know, there's this, we have a tendency to set up boundaries that say, you know, not coming in here, you know, I'm not letting you in. I think we have to kind of say, like, how can I just be open to this new person who is in our midst, this new pastor? I think the pastor has to do the same thing with the parishioners, because they're not going to be the same parishioners that you had. They're, you know, although I always say, like, I think you can find the, you know, people that you put into categories in almost every place that you go to. So
the really cool guy, that'd be me.
They just have a new name, you know? Yeah. So it's fine. Just give them a chance. Give them a chance. Be supportive. Pray for him every day, you know?
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, like, well, even Father David, he's leaving. I don't, you know, and that's coming up. Same time? Are you guys leaving at the same time?
Yeah, we're both leaving the same time, yeah.
So he's brand new.
We're both packing right now, yeah.
Oh, he's brand new, but he's still leaving a parish that he
connected to for 3 years.
Yeah, connected to.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been looking forward to being a pastor. There's no doubt about it. So he, in his own ways, has a lot of anxieties because, you know, he may not be encountering like things that already seeing things in the new place that you're like, oh, I'm not used to that because this is how we did it at the Basilica. And, or, it's nerves because it's like, oh, I was hoping this wouldn't be the kind of parish I had to come into or the kind of challenges that I'd have to come into. But
and
we
yet
can never
every parish
know
is going to
that.
have all their own unique
You know what?
challenges.
I figured out that, everybody wants to somehow think of their parish when they're there as running super smoothly and everything's wonderful and it's great here while I'm here. But you know what? I'm sure that there are things that I let go that somebody else can be like, why did Father Ron let that go and not deal with that? And, so you have to look at the next place you're going to and feel the same way. Like, okay, that person didn't deal with it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to, but I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to deal with it,
So you know where you're going?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We don't know though yet.
Some people do.
Okay.
Because I've announced it. Yeah, I have announced it. So, but I can't announce because we're still on, let's see, it's Friday the 9th when we're, recording this. And, it hasn't yet been announced by the bishop. I'm assuming that letter is coming out today. I mean, the email we get, that means we can now announce.
Now you can talk about it.
Yeah, you can talk about it. So, interesting enough, the parish that I'm going to is right now doesn't have a pastor. They're without.
I was going to ask that. What their situation is.
So, quite honestly, I've already visited this week. And went and saw my house and, started talking about what things we got to get done before I get in there, that kind of thing, cleaning carpets, painting walls, blah, blah,
Does it feel like a space you're going to enjoy?
Yeah, I think I am.
House?
It's going to be very different than the house I'm in. I'm in a very historical house right now, built in 1940, a much different kind of facility, a little more palatial, castle-like. This is a ranch home, but very big, because it used to be a convent. So, and it's been renovated since then. And so it's quite big, have a lot of guest rooms.
All right.
If you need a place to stay, come stay at my place.
All right.
I got
me in a wing.
Yeah, I'll put you in one of the wings. Yeah,
right.
That's what it sort of feels like a little bit. So yeah, that's going to take some getting used to, and being by myself is going to take getting used to because I've grown very used to having Father David around, and it's not unusual for me to be sitting down to lunch and say, hey, where are you? Come on down and entertain me,
Dance, monkey dance. Right?
It isn't like that, but it's not quite like that. But
I think that's hilarious. I want it to be like that.
Yeah.
He tells jokes or something.
Come down and entertain me. Come down and talk to me while I eat. So yeah, we do. We have some of the best conversations while we're eating, or while one of us is eating and the other one is just sitting there. So
have you seen the Lord of the Rings movies?
Yes.
Okay, so Return of the King, when Lord Denethor is eating and he has Pippin sing.
Yes.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Only you would eat much nicer than Lord Denethor.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have great conversations, though.
We have great conversations.
All of that goes away.
It's kind of funny, because I just got used to yelling up the stairs, "Hey, are you here?" That kind of thing, or texting him, "Where are you?" In this great big house. So yeah, it's going to be strange not to have that, but it's going to force me to be a little more intentional about getting my friends and getting people over, So
do you know people out in wherever you're going? Do you have established friendships or relationships out there?
Not really. I'm fairly close in distance to the first parish that I was assigned to as an associate, but I have not been back there since my ordination, really, pretty much. I think the last time I was back in Muskegon, which is where in Norton Shores, which is where my first assignment was probably a couple of years ago. I did a wedding for a former parishioner's son, who now was an adult. Was one of my altar servers when he was a kid.
Oh, really?
So, and actually, two of the boys I've done their weddings. So, yeah, it's just they both of them wanted me. I said, hey, great. I haven't seen these guys since they were little kids. So it'll be nice to reconnect maybe with some of those people. I have people that are in Spring Lake, and I'll be, reasonably closer, but not that much closer. And I mean, Yeah. I'm going to the lakeshore if you haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to Montague.
Montague. Okay.
To St. James and Montague.
St.
And
James and
I
Montague.
take care of 2 other worship sites or 2 other churches that I don't live at, but one of them is Our Lady of Assumption in Rothbury.
All right.
And St. John the Baptist in Claybanks, which is only open during the summer because there's a lot of residents that move into that area during the summer.
All right. Well, my daughter is going to get married and she'll live in Muskegon.
Very interesting. We've already talked.
Oh, you guys have?
We had pre-Cana last weekend. And even Cole, her future spouse, was mentioning, like, because he's going to be working in Muskegon. And so they're like, hey, that isn't going to be that far from us. And so we could drive. In fact, we go up there to see things. And so I don't know. They might be coming to my new parish. So
that's
who knows?
Fun. That's really cool.
That could be really cool. So I'm kind of excited about that. And there's been a few other people that have already connected with me and said, I don't know if you know this, but we moved to Montague however many years ago and when I took a job there. And then we just never left, even when I didn't have the job anymore. So yeah, it's good. I think there'll be
good.
There's going to be good stuff like that happens. It's meant to happen. It's God trying to say to me, like, see, it's not going to be that bad. You'll be fine. And it is true. I will. It's not that bad. I'll be fine. You know?
I know, but it's still tough.
I'll miss all you.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to miss you.
So
yeah, when you first talked to me about this was possibly coming, you said, don't tell the kids. I'll tell the kids after Easter. So I didn't tell them anything. Then Justin
told them during Holy Week.
Yeah.
Or
and
before.
then Hannah gets in
she was crying she was sobbing during Mass.
They all get to the car and they say, Dad, did you know this? And I said, I did, but I was told not to tell. How could you not tell us? And they're crying on the way home.
Yeah.
It was a train wreck. Thanks, Justin.
Oh, well, on that note.
It was really funny. They love you. And it was cool. They talked about that in the car. Okay. And anyway, we got a lot going on. Excited for your opportunities. We know that's, it's a mixed bag right now.
You can always come visit me.
We'll definitely do that. We'll keep you in our prayers. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
I just want to say to everybody, God bless. And just so you know, Dan and I have decided that this podcast is not going away. You're going to still be connected to us on this podcast. We're going to be doing it at a little more of a distance than we presently are, but it's all possible because of technology.
Yeah, that's great. We can keep that going, keep connection up, and I think that sounds really great.
I'm excited about it because people are telling me to keep doing it. So
good deal.
That's what we're going to do.
Happy to hear that. And yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can find all of the past episodes online at iCatholic.show. Check that out. For Intentionally Catholic, I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Father Ron Hutchinson. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Intentionally Catholic. If you like what you heard, please consider sharing our show with a friend. If you have comments, questions, or topics you'd like to hear discussed, please email those to comments@icatholic.show. And be sure to tune in next time for another episode.